Hey everyone, welcome back to the Longevity Formula podcast. Today is a special edition. You'll notice this is not a Friday. This is actually May 28th, and there's something special about May 28th. That number 528 is very special, not just to me, but to my business partner here, Kevin, because we've actually been developing something for about a year now. This something that we've been developing is going to revolutionize healthcare and how you at home can actually treat your family and yourself. And we're just so excited to bring this to you today in this special edition of the podcast. And, I've been waiting to unveil this amazing person to you. This is Kevin Johnson. Again, this is my business partner in 528 Innovations. And today we're going to tell you how we are going to change healthcare in your lives. So, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Love that intro.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
I'm excited.
So today is special. I mean, we can go ahead and tell everyone, today is the Unveiling Day.
Absolutely.
So we're unveiling this new technology that we've been developing. We're going to tell everyone all about it here in a little bit, and we're going to learn more about you first. But today's pre-sale day.
It is. This is when we let people know what we've been working on. We've been teasing to the email subscribers, teasing little bits and pieces. This is when we get to share everything that we've been working on and really start. I'm so excited. I've been working on this for so long. Excited to share that with more people, share the technology, share what it can bring to our, hopefully future customers and their families. And 528 is the day. And it's not available yet. That is our pre-sale date, but that's when we begin announcing and sharing and letting people reserve for what we'll be manufacturing later in the year.
Absolutely. So like we said, today's pre-sale day, we're unveiling. We have the website launching. You can go to 528innovations.com. You can go and get on the list. If you're wanting this technology, we are producing small batches. We're really big on quality. So we are producing, there is a limited number that we're going to be producing initially. Again, we're going to tell you all about this technology, but just know that you can go to 528innovations.com and start exploring there. But let's go ahead and shift and let's learn more about you.
Welcome to the Longevity Formula with Dr. Brandon Crawford. Let's explore the new era of wellness.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Longevity Formula podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Today is seriously an exciting day. I know I say that a lot, but today is very exciting because I want you to meet someone that is very special. He's a friend. He's now a business partner. He's wicked smart. I mean, I literally just learned some things about him that I didn't even realize. So I'm very excited to introduce to you, Kevin Johnson. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brandon. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So Kevin he's a business partner of mine in 528 Innovations, which we're going to get in and explain what that is and what the mission is and what we're trying to accomplish. But first, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because there's no way I can do this justice.
What do you want to know? My whole background, I was born in 77.
On a dark, stormy night.
I'm an engineer by background. I went to Vanderbilt, computer engineering degree. I graduated Vanderbilt. I moved to Texas, had one job for 23 years. I worked at National Instruments. So my career is really based around all the knowledge, technology, the innovation that company afforded me. So built a career around that. I have a wife of 18 years now.
Better get that right.
Yep, I know. She's going to kill me. My wife, Jackie, I have 3 kids, Audrey, Jesse, and Dylan, mostly teenage years. So we live near each other here in Austin, Texas, and have been here for now 24 years.
Yeah. So National Instruments. So obviously I'm in the Austin area. This is is it Austin based or is that just one of the branches?
No, it's Austin headquarters.
Okay. What exactly does NI do?
NI, they're a test and measurement company. So they focus on building the tools, the technology, the equipment needed for other scientists, other engineers to do amazing incredible things.
Yeah.
So whether it's testing something, oftentimes on a manufacturing line, you need to test your iPhone, all the different parts, Apple uses us for that, or us, NI for that. But we also embed that technology in really, really cool things. Giant microscopes, CERN's particle accelerator. I've had pieces of equipment that we've developed that have been sent to space, put on the Hubble telescope.
Yeah.
There's all kind of really cool engineering challenges that are out there that were moved forward because of the tools, the software, and the hardware platform that we provided.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you're a computer engineer, graduated from Vandy, pretty. And so computer engineering,
Yes.
that is, what exactly does that entail?
So it's a combination of hardware and software engineering. So I have both the computer science background, a lot of time spent in embedded programming and software application development and designing software tools for people. And then the hardware engineering background of what does the computer do? What does it have to do to run all of that software? And that can be within a computer itself, or it can be little tiny things. How do you make this incredibly small embedded hardware that can run and do amazing things in space?
Yeah.
Right.
Which it's so interesting because I've been geeking out on quantum physics, and, quantum entanglement is largely, how a lot of this software, hardware journey, has been able to shrink everything, and where a lot of this technology is heading. I actually did not realize you worked on CERN, like with this particle accelerator. That is highly fascinating to me. So you were literally saying, like, if y'all made an error, there could be some rather big consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I worked directly with some of the development teams. The part that we worked on was basically controlling the beams and how you accelerate that particle around this giant about a mile in diameter loop that's buried under the ground. And so they had hundreds of our systems set up that basically it would detect how that beam is moving and do the slightest little variance to how to magnetically steer that so that it keeps looping around, and then they can collide essentially two atoms together and to explode.
Wow.
In a controlled way.
Yeah.
It was insane.
That is insane and wildly fascinating. So you are perfectly positioned at this intersection of technology, understanding the technology, creating the technology. And then you also have this other component with some medical history and some, things that have been going on there in the background of your life, right? And so, like, literally, you're perfectly positioned to help innovate and bring forth new technology in the medical space. So give me the story about, like, how do we know each other? How did we meet? I know there's probably different perspectives here as far as what I remember, you remember, but we've known each other for about 15 years.
About 15 years. Yeah? Yep. Yeah, both professionally and personally. I think we started, you were treating my wife for some back pain. So I think you've actually treated everyone in my family, I believe, so to this point, for different various things. But it started with that. And so she developed a friendship with you. And then we got to know each other, and we ended up coaching T-ball together. Our kids played T-ball together. So we're out there trying to get all the kids to look in the same direction and not get hit by the ball.
Kind of similar to particle acceleration.
It's a bigger challenge than the particle, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had this great personal relationship, and then I think, professionally and personally, you were there for us. My family had some really hard medical challenges, particularly my youngest son, Dylan. So he was a very normal, great child. You remember him growing for 4 years, and right at the 4-year mark, he started to take some neurological turns, and so he started limping, he started losing his balance, he started falling over. We didn't know what to do. That set our whole life, our family, everything on a very different direction, because now we have a child that was, what we learned was his cerebellum was atrophying. We don't know why. And so we established this, there's no diagnosis, and still no diagnosis. And this is almost 8 years later. We went on this path this journey of trying to understand what is happening with him. Why is it happening? So many doctors, so many tests, everything we can think of. He's part of the Undiagnosed Disease Network, giant network that's worldwide trying to understand these interesting situations. And so we had this journey of working with neurologists, geneticists, many different doctors. They've been supportive, but no solutions because there's no diagnosis for what he has. He's considered undiagnosed. But very early on in this journey, aside from going to a neurologist, you were really the first person we called. We turned to you and said, can you help us? We don't know what's going on. Our son is having these challenges. We don't know what it means. We don't know what started it. We don't know where it's going. Can you help us? And so I think when you were beginning to launch your pediatric functional neurology career, Dylan was one of your first patients, and still is a patient of yours. And so that has been a long journey where you have really supported us through this time period, helped us to learn that there's more than just what a medical profession can do. There's other supportive avenues out there as well that we had no idea 8 years ago. Right. So we've been on this learning and education journey to understand what else is out there. How else can we support our son through this as he faces this debilitating disease that has really just, it's destroyed his life. But you have brought and this whole other aspect of science and using technology and different ways to support. You've really helped us understand how can we support him, and despite the disease, he can thrive.
Right. Yeah. I remember I had just gotten back from Costa Rica, so I'd done a sabbatical. I really wasn't going to practice anymore, but that was not God's plan, which I'm happy now about that. But I do remember, because I remember Dylan prior to leaving. I believe he was I don't remember. He was probably 3 years old or so. But I do remember, right? And I remember I can actually vividly see him having trouble stepping over. We had maybe a 3 or 4 foot step up into the house. I remember watching him going, he's struggling with that. What's going on? And your wife was saying one of the main things that they had noticed, y'all had noticed, was, like you said, limping, falling, and then trouble to climb. I remember, he would normally like climb up, playing with his friends and brother and everything. Oh yeah. And I was like, man, what's going on here? But
we had this play set in our backyard with a climbing wall, and he was always out there. That kid would climb everywhere. He escaped his room one time, climbed out the window, came knocking on the front door. And then, he would always go out to the backyard.
Hopefully he's on the first floor.
He was on the first floor, yes. He did have mulch in his hair when he came knocking on the door.
Oh, my gosh.
But he was a climber. He loved to run. He was, energetic, but he can no longer walk. He can move his finger. Right. His left index finger is about the movement he has. That plus he can blink and he can move his head left to right. And that's essentially his muscle control these days.
Right.
So it's been 8 years to go from running, jumping, normal child to this now.
Right. So those are, you've got some background that, no one on the planet has. No one wants the background that you just described. And then it's extremely hard to gain the background, your professional background, right? So you've got a very unique position, and it's great you've decided to leverage both of those and really help the world. And so there was a point, right, that you had described to me where Dylan was suffering. I believe y'all were in the ICU, and you were using the laser, and you had just came to a conclusion like, hey, we're going to do something with this. Can you give me some background on that?
Yeah, sure. So Dylan's his muscles obviously are weak, and he's lost control of most of his extremities, as I described, but it's also affecting internal organs. So his diaphragm, his ability to breathe, things like that. And so him getting a cold at that point in time basically would stick him in the ICU. He couldn't cough the congestion up, right? So that stuck him in the ICU again this time. And this was probably the third time that he'd had to be submitted to the ICU for this. But this time was different. It was a really bad, it was RSV. He wasn't able to manage through. They had to intubate him right away. And then he basically, we tried to manage, get rid of the breathing tube. It took like 6-7 weeks of trying that. So we were in the ICU for 6-7 weeks before, with him intubated, this poor child going through all of that. So we spent a lot of time at the hospital. I was there day and night. And with all that extra time on our hands, I utilized a lot of that time to learn about laser, right? We had a laser. We purchased one from you very early on, and we used it at home. We used it for the care plan that you had set up for us. So we were doing that with Dylan. So I knew about laser, and it was a really cool technology. We're trying it in different ways at home, but I didn't understand it. As an engineer, I want to understand these things, right? To know that, this is what it's doing. This is why it's great, right? So I had this time on my hands in the hospital. So number one, my wife and I were like, we both really, it was having that time got into really what is this technology and what is it doing? And then we had a lot of time to utilize it on Dylan. So, I'm sitting there in the hospital with him. So I had a laser shining on him hours and hours a day with different things. And we would text back and forth and you'd say, try this for him, try that for them. We're trying to strengthen his lungs, trying to strengthen his muscles, trying to support his body through being in the ICU for weeks and weeks at a time, not being able to move. So it was, through that we really learned a lot about, this is what this thing is. And this is how the power of this device and this technology that we haven't really been utilizing to its full potential. And then after about 6 weeks in the ICU, a major event happened with Dylan where one lung collapsed. So they tried to excavate him, pulled the breathing tube, and he couldn't handle it. His muscles still weren't strong enough. So a lung collapsed and they weren't able to bring it back at the time. So they spent hours and hours during this event trying to bring his oxygen back up, to basically, they're breathing for him. They were doing their best to keep oxygen flowing throughout his body. But one lung had collapsed, and at the same time, another lung, because that one had collapsed, there's so much pressure on the other lung that it had punctured. And so it was a traumatic event for him. And doctors, I remember just sitting outside this ICU room and, there's 15, 20 people there around my son. I couldn't be there with him. They were all moving crazy to try and save him. All I could do was see his oxygen sensor that was, on a screen above him. And I just sat there over a period of like 2 hours watching his oxygen level just creep down and down and down and down. And it hung out at like, normally you're sitting there in the 90s, right? 95 plus. And he was hung out in the teens for probably an hour. Eventually it crashed to 0. And that was a point when it's almost like you feel like you see this kind of like your heartbeat would just stop. Yeah. That's what it felt like, and here I'm seeing my son, his oxygen levels at 0. And I don't quite remember how long that was for. It felt like an eternity. It was probably, 5-10 minutes that it was at 0. It's, painful memories. It felt like that was it. But then there was this miracle breathing specialist who came in, found the right way to breathe for him, the right beat, and his oxygen started coming back up. And so eventually they found a way and brought in this giant machine that sounded like a motorcycle, but was breathing for him at some crazy rate that was so high. But the only way that he was surviving through that was they were breathing at some several hundred breaths a second.
Wow. That's a lot.
And
because typically, that's, normal respiratory rate should be 12 to maybe 20, a kid higher, 15 to 25, whatever. That's a lot.
Yep. And so they had to paralyze him through that. He was already unconscious, but they had to keep him unconscious, keep him basically in a coma and paralyzed, because if he woke up and tried to fight this machine, his lungs would have exploded. So he went through this period of several days where they had this machine breathing with him like this to keep his oxygen level up until he could heal himself, and the puncture on that side could heal, and the other lung could expand out. It was a crazy time period. And basically during those few days when he was like this, doctors came to me and they were like, we pulled him out of this, but don't expect much. Like, his brain wasn't working. It didn't have oxygen to it. His heart wasn't pumping. Like just expect the worst. They were very real about it. Once he was well enough to be on a normal ventilator again, then they, took him out of his medically induced coma. And as soon as that stuff wore off, everyone's like sitting on the edge of our seat, like, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? He opened his eyes and he was like, it was like he was waking up on fresh Sunday morning.
Wow.
He woke up, he started talking. It was like nothing had changed. And these doctors looked at me and they were like, holy cow, what has happened with this kid? No one expected him to do this.
Yeah.
The word they kept using over and over was resilient. Like, he's just resilient. And so they put all kind of, they ran a bunch of brain tests, EEGs, and monitored them for days to see what this was going to be like, and try and set some expectations for us. And they're basically like, he's the same as before the event. And so my wife and I, Jackie and I, we both think back at that and we're like, there's no way he would have made it through this event. There's no way he would have been so resilient if it wasn't for all of the laser therapy that we did during that time period to set his body up. He had the strength, he had the energy, his cells were prepared for this event.
Right. And
it was traumatic. It was awful. He pulled through. And so anyways, that was a major storyline in our life. And after that, that's when we turned back to you. I remember having a conversation soon after that of, okay, we feel like we've been given this blessing from God. We have more time with our son. This is not something that we should even be allowed to have right now, but he gave us this gift. We want to give back, right? So we feel like we need to give back to others that are suffering through similar things, right? This technology is out there. It's available. We're making it together so that we can put it in people's hands. We want to give that to people. And so we really feel like we gain some purpose through that. And all of this suffering that my son has done, it's given us this purpose. And we instantly turn to you. We're like, Brandon, what do you need? How can we partner together? What can we do to help you so that we can grow this relationship? We can give back, because now we have this purpose in life that we need to fulfill.
Right. I remember that. And I remember the first line of thinking was, hey, let's develop an app or, something like that. And I'd always wanted to develop and design and manufacture a laser. And I had not quite stepped in that direction. I wanted to for years. And I literally, after I vividly remember that too. I remember you and your wife being in the office that day and having that conversation. And the day prior, literally day just before, I literally was praying, God, should I make a laser? I feel like there's so much, I know there's so much missing, and there's so much left on the table in technology and how laser therapy can be used. Should I do this? And then literally the next day, God's like, yep, there's a person. And I was like, Really? That fast?
I remember that having a conversation at your office, and because you had just mentioned, hey, I'm thinking about building a laser. And then these thoughts were in my head of, oh man, it should do this. It should do this. We can do it this way. Like these thoughts were exploding. And so we talked, it was probably an hour or two, I forget, but we were just like back and forth of what if it did this? What if we, oh man. And then that night or the next morning, I still remember a text from you of, it was just straight out, I feel like you're the person I need to work with. God's telling me you're the one. What do we do?
Yep.
And that was it. Came into the office the next day. We shook on it. We said, let's do this.
Absolutely. That's
so
amazing.
It was that fast.
That's cool. I'm glad we have this recorded because that's that's awesome, man. I mean, there's literally no better person to develop a laser, in my opinion. That's amazing. And I love that you mentioned the word resilience because, I mean, it's true. Like when you look at the literature that's been done and the literature that we're going to do, the research we're going to do, but one thing you'll consistently see is that the mechanisms that we're able to study, it truly does, whenever you use properly modulated laser and light therapy, it improves the resilience of the cell. It makes it function better. Whatever that cell is supposed to do, it's going to do it better. It helps the cell not sustain injury. If it does sustain injury, helps it recover faster. That's a perfect word that I've never actually really thought of in regards to, to describing laser therapy, but resiliency, it does. It improves resiliency at the cellular and then not only cellular level, but the atomic and subatomic level as well. Very interesting. So we came together, said, hey, let's create something that's never been done before.
Yep.
So how should we then tell everyone listening about what we're creating? Because we've got some harebrained ideas and, obviously I'm the one that's like, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z. And you're like, that's great. Let's finish this first. And
I'm the adult in the room.
That's doable, but that's, that's going to be a few years. But we both understand the power of laser therapy. But we both understand that not every laser beam is created equal. And, one way that I've been describing this is this concept of voice, right? So if I yell something at someone versus just speak to them normally versus speak to them quietly and softly, but I'm saying the same words in every scenario, there will be a different perception, a different response to that individual, right? And so a laser beam is the same way. Yes, we're using photons, but how we deliver the photons, the momentum, the spin, the dosage, the frequency, all of these things, it's like modulating your voice, right? And that, without really getting into the technicalities of it, that's what we're creating, right? I don't know if you want to say that in a different way or elaborate on that, but from your perspective also, you were heavily focused on the user. So what did you see was something that was left on the table in this space or something that needed to be innovated? Is that a word? That's something that we needed to innovate on in the space from a user perspective.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we're obviously a user. We use it at home. We have 2 laser devices at home right now. I can't wait to get some more prototypes of our new one. I'll use them. Everyone in our family uses it. But yeah, I remember being excited as you shared just what you shared about the difference in the laser technology, the beam physics, how that interacts differently with the body, and that really describing the need at that point of, it's not just you use red light, right? There's ways that you can adjust that beam for different effects in different scenarios. And so you described to me like all these things that you needed to help your clinic and your patients in different ways. And it was like, wow, I want to help bring that, right? You described that space of no one else out there has like this or in these combinations. So I wanted to help provide that to you. At the same time, knowing all of those things, knowing that how you use the laser, what the wavelength is, what the beam physics is, what the power levels are, where you put it on your body, which is not always obvious to get the right results. All those things are so impactful and I've seen it in our everyday use, but I'm not you, right? And so every time I would want to use laser for something, I basically would have to text you and like, hey, Brandon, can you tell me how to do it for this? Can you give us hints here? And like, you have all of this knowledge in your brain and you share that with people at your clinic. This was really something spearheaded by my wife. This was her idea of, we need to take what's that knowledge that's in your brain and we need to distill it down so that someone can take it home. We talk about taking a mini Brandon home with you. So when you have a laser device that we're able to share it, this is the optimal way to use it to get the effects that you're looking for to treat and heal in these different ways. But these are the 5-10 different variables that have to be adjusted. And instead of you knowing all of that and looking at all the research and doing all of that knowledge you have, you're the expert, you're inspiring in how you use this in those ways. And we want to provide that and distill it to someone so they can have that at home and know exactly what to do, so that they're not just using laser for this one thing, that it can be used for a plethora of things. But if you don't know how to use it, then you're just kind of stuck.
Right.
And I spent many years just kind of fearful of, hey, I have this laser, I'm using it on my son. I don't know how to use it for other things, right? And there's some Facebook groups out there and they're like, how do I do it for this? How do I do it for this? And people are kind of like just talking to each other. And like, I trust what you always shared with us, and it always worked. But it didn't scale for me to ask you every single time, right? So we want to bring that knowledge, bring that to people so that they know, hey, I may have bought a laser for this purpose to start, and I know how to use it for this purpose, but as they see need for it in other ways in their life, in their healing journey, in their families and friends that may borrow this laser, right? How do they use it for those different situations? And that's what we want to bring. We want to fill that. We want to give people the confidence that this is how you use it and this is how you get results. I have a medicine cabinet at home. I use it when we need to, but we're to the point where we have enough knowledge about laser that it's the first thing I turn to, right? Instead of going for a Tylenol or an Advil, I go to laser, right? If my GI tract isn't feeling good, I go to laser, right? If my daughter, she had ankle surgery, instead of giving her a bunch of pain pills, we used laser on it. She healed, in a quarter of the time what they expected her to. She had double ankle surgery and she was back on her feet in a few days, walking around in these boots with no pain.
She's a pretty competitive ballet dancer, just for the audience. Like that's no significant. That's a significant feat there.
She opted in to have surgery on her ankles so that she could do ballet without pain. It's crazy, but yes. But that takes a lot of knowledge and understanding of how it works and how to configure it in the right way. We want to bring that and make that easy for everybody.
Right. And, something you mentioned, being fearful. So when I started this laser journey back in the day, I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I literally went and I asked as many doctors as I could get in front of. And I'm talking all not just chiropractors, but I spoke with chiros, PTs, some general practice surgeons, even eye doctors, etc. Eye doctors were all fine with laser, interestingly enough, but that makes sense. They're, doing LASIKs. Everyone from a clinical side, they all said the same thing. I said, why are you not using laser therapy? They said, we don't know how to use it. That was from the clinical side. That's what everyone said. We don't know how to use it. Okay. And then started talking to lay people, because in my mind, I'm sitting here going, man, this is safe. This is effective. Why is it not everywhere? Why does not every home have one? Why does not every doctor use one? And then from a non-provider standpoint, layperson standpoint, they all said the same thing. I'm scared. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt my kids. Like they were fearful. And so one of the top priorities when we started this is safety. Like we have to 100%. Produce a product that is safe, that, you can give to someone and Like there is so little chance of them causing any kind of harm. However, we both said, this device needs to be powerful enough to make a physiological change, something that you're going to notice, something that you are going to use and go, wow, I feel different. I feel better. And those are almost kind of contrasting things. So it was not an easy feat to do what we've done. So we've taken a powerful laser that would normally be classified as a class 4, and we've made it safe enough so that it's classified as a 3R. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I see the benefits of the higher power, and it reduces treatment times. It has more impact. That's so important. But when we started looking at, all right, what class do we need it to be? What does that mean? You were asking for, hey, you wanted more power. We need more power. That would have stuck us in this class 4 safety rating. Like class 4, you have to have trained technicians. All right. You have to have safety kill switches. Everyone has to be wearing glasses. Like class 4 level power is often like, if you looked at the beam wrong, it's extremely dangerous. Right. And so we said, nope, that's not what we're doing. How can we make this safer? And so there's obviously lower level safety ratings. There's a class 3B rating, which has strong power, but is still very dangerous to the eye and requires a bunch of safety mechanisms. There is a class 3R, which is what our device will be. And then there's class 2 and 1, which is more in the like laser pointer type of area. So we found this niche in this class 3R, which is a new safety rating category, which really it's through innovation, knowing how can we adjust the beam of this laser so that you can still provide the level of power, the amount of photons, but deliver in a way that your natural body's reaction to seeing light of that power makes it, your natural body will react before it would ever harm you. So that's essentially what that level is. And it takes some very precise engineering of how we modify the beam so that if someone were accidentally to look at it, that it's not going to hurt them, right? That they'll respond fine. But we've had to engage with some very smart optical engineers, some very smart laser experts. We've consulted with several different firms on this to deliver this perfect balance that I see of delivering the power that you need for people to have these results, but it'll be absolutely a safe device. You don't have to walk around with safety glasses, right? You don't have to have all these different safety mechanisms that these other higher power devices have.
And something to point out for the clinicians that are watching is the majority of the lasers out there are class 4 or class 3B that are on the market. Both of those classifications require a medical practice, therapy practice, whatever. You need to have, number one, you have to be registered with the state, which we are, but most people don't realize that. Number 2, you are required to wear safety glasses. And number 3, you actually have to have a trained laser safety officer and a deputy on premises. And that's a legitimate process. Like there's a course, you have to get certified. The LSO then designates a deputy for when they're out, et cetera, right? So Katie's our laser safety officer. She writes warrants all day long.
That's funny.
But with the class 3, what I'm saying is it's cumbersome for the practice. Class 3R does not require that because it is so much safer. So you do not need a LSO. The safety glasses requirement is not there. So it's so much easier for the clinician to practice. That's huge on my part because like there are several things that we have to keep track of and log and make sure that we've done right with the state and everything so that we can properly use a class 3B or a class 4 laser. So, and then for the home user, dramatic. I mean,
absolutely,
safety is so important. So what type of challenges, right? Because you're the one that really curated the teams of the engineers and all these things. What type of challenges did you face trying to develop this technology?
Oh man.
Without giving away proprietary information.
It is, you asked for a lot, right? You asked for a very high-powered laser that is safe and it's mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had to put this thing into a small form factor so that you can use it in, I know at your clinic, people are up and mobile all the time. You're using it. It can't be wired to a wall, right? It's got to be battery powered. It's got to be able to handle in your hand. You got to be able to take it with you. We want this to be something that you stick in your purse, you throw in your backpack. Like this goes with you. This is part of your life. You just bring it with you, right? So to accomplish all of that, it's a amazing engineering feat. It's been really, really fun working on this with the incredible engineers that we've partnered with. But lasers are hot. Turns out they're very hot and they draw a lot of power.
Yeah.
And they are extremely dangerous if you don't put in the right optical system. You don't create the right beam structure to make it safe for your eye. Mm-hmm. So to do all of that, to generate that much power, to handle that much heat that we're producing, so the device can stay nice and cool, it can run, for long periods of time, and then you can use it on your infant, you can use it on your dog, you can use it on your kids. Like, it's a perfectly safe device to use. And so that's been a really fun balance between all of that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I know one of the engineers constantly worried about thermals. Every meeting, thermals. How's that affect thermals? But
thermals and safety were by far the two biggest challenges, which is why you don't see devices like this just out there, because it is a very hard challenge.
Yeah.
Most devices you find with this much power, they plug into a wall. They're big, they're giant, right? Mm-hmm. So they can stay cool. Yeah. Right? They're not something that you can stick in your pocket.
Right. I know on the call on Friday we had the laser expert, we had optical engineers,
mm-hmm. Yep.
And man, they were going through the math, mm-hmm. And I was sitting there like, I'm not following, but this is cool. And then they showed the graphical representation of the beam coming through the diffuser. I'm like, that's gorgeous. And I'm like taking screenshots. Like, that's cool. I don't exactly know what I'm looking at, but that's really cool. It's just been, It's been really amazing, just to be honest, getting to see at a quantum level, right, what's going on, how we can manipulate it to ultimately change a life. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish.
That's the goal.
That's what we're trying to do. And I mean, if people can't tell, I mean, we're real people. You have a just passionate story. I've got stories. We're literally just trying to help people. Mm-hmm. That is what we're trying to do. That's why we're
1,000%.
Yeah. So, if you could tell someone, right, and this can be anything, it doesn't have to be laser related, but someone going through a health challenge. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a veteran. You've got so many things. And I ask everyone this, like, everyone that's been on the podcast, like, is there anything that you would want to tell someone at home suffering from a health condition, or really they just want to optimize their performance, they just want to be better? Mm-hmm. What kind of insights would you give them?
When anyone talks about, ask me about our journey and kind of what we've gone through, or I talk to other people that are on similar journeys. Everyone goes through these ups and downs, right? So much of it is just keeping hope. Mm-hmm. Like, hope just comes up as a word all the time with us. There's so many times when we felt like we hit a brick wall, right? And there's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go. We got this new specialist. Oh, I can't do anything else for you. All right, here's another specialist. Oh, I'm sorry. I've done everything I can. Like, you just hit so many brick walls and you feel like it's just all lost, right? There's nothing you can do. What we have found through you and the inspiration through you in your practice and the knowledge and learning about this technology, laser, plus many other things out there, that there's hope, right? Mm-hmm. There are so many ways that you can help your body heal, help your body to optimize. Or in my son's case, we still don't know what his disease is, but within the, what God has given him and the, the challenges that he faces, his body is very optimized. Like his pediatrician cannot believe how fast he's growing. He's beating all metrics for his growth pattern. For someone with his condition, like they just can't believe it. So there's hope to optimize within, whatever challenges you face and what God has given you, but there's always hope to thrive within that. And hopefully, we still haven't given up hope that one day we'll figure out what it is that actually is impacting Dylan, and we'll never give up hope.
Right.
But in the meantime, man, we can give him a great life with what he has available.
Yeah.
So
that's a good segue into the name of the company.
Yes.
So 528 Innovations. Go.
I'll tell you to go. I remember being in back room of your office, and me and my wife and you and your wife, we sat there. This is early on, and we're like, we need a name of a company. Like we can't move forward until we name the company. And so we sat there and we explored ideas. 528 was one of them. And so we had a lot of different ideas. We kept coming back to that one because of it's the frequency of love. It's also the frequency of miracles. And I know it means a lot to you, the love portion. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So, interestingly enough, my wife and I were married on May 28th. And, I didn't know about 528 hertz at the time. We were in college. I did not have any clue about 528, but I think everything happens for a reason. And it was actually a Monday. So it wasn't even, the typical Saturday wedding or whatever. So fast forward, one of my mentors, Dr. John D'Onofrio, is the president of the Functional Neurology Board. He was the first president. The first thing he taught me is he said, always remember the number 528. I was like, 528? He was like, 528 hertz. It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. And he said, this is a specific frequency. It's been actually studied in various regards. It's a solfeggio, so it's one of the solfeggio frequencies. And he told me it is the frequency of love. And like you said, miracles. It actually can alter the DNA. It can do several different things. And, I try not to be esoteric. So there's objective ways to measure these things. I actually know a past cancer researcher, past being key, because he actually was in the lab. I'm not going to say what college he was in. And he was growing cancer in a petri dish. And he said, I wonder what happens if I leave 528 hertz acoustically next to this petri dish. He came back the next morning and those cancer cells began to die, which was interesting. And he brought it to the lead investigator. They brought it to, whoever they bring that to. And they said, no, we're not studying that. Like, it can't, just don't even write that. We're not doing that. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just killed cancer cells. And it really kind of opened his eyes to like, okay, there's a whole world here that's not being explored, or I don't know, maybe being covered up, whatever you want to say. Yeah. But it's a very powerful frequency. And, we said, we put these two words together. So we have 528 and we have innovations. And in my mind, we're innovating out of love. Because the world is going in a certain direction. And if we're going to change healthcare, if we're going to literally change the world, I mean, there's nothing more powerful than love. We're going to need that. We're going to have to innovate out of love. That's the only way that this moves forward.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. As soon as we were looking at the name of the company, my wife and I kept coming to 528, and y'all liked it too. But then you hadn't even told us this story about you were married on 528 and all of this background. So as soon as you told us that, it was like you were trying not to. I remember you say you didn't want to bias it. You didn't want to lead us in that direction if we didn't want to, but we were gravitating towards it. Obviously you have your ties. So, the knowing it's the frequency of miracles, and, we're in this for my son, Dylan, and all kids that are facing these type of situations. So we're looking to change lives.
Absolutely.
So it was just such a fitting thing And then innovation being really the heart of why we came together. Like you wanted to innovate. And I wanted to create a platform that was innovative for you, right? So we're not just creating a device here, right? We're not just creating one laser and that's it. Like we are creating a platform, a system that will allow us to continue to innovate, provide all of those different ways of talking with the body, like you mentioned, but also provide this laser isn't going to be perfect for everybody in every use case, right? This is a first laser that is going to impact a lot of use cases and help people in a lot of ways. But there's other ways that we can help as well. So leveraging that technology we're creating now, but then being able to quickly and rapidly evolve that technology to use it in different ways, provide this to more people in ways that meet their needs. That's what we're on a journey to do. We want to get this device, this technology, this type of therapy in as many people's hands as possible, in as many households as possible, right? And make it accessible for people. And so this is the start, and I'm excited to see what's coming.
Yeah. Well, I think so that was kind of my next question is, what do you see as the future of healthcare and health in general? Do you feel like we're helping to shape the future? I'll change the question because I think you answered that. Do you feel like we're shaping the future of health and healthcare currently?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
We have seen the power and how we care for our family differently. And this is I'm not someone that would say, hey, I'm all in on holistic medicine versus medical practices. It's all in the right environment and the right cases. It's all important.
Right.
And so we utilize all medical practice, all technology that we can to care for my family.
Right.
And so, but I was prior to this and prior to my son's situation, I was only exposed to one portion of healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. So my eyes are open to a whole nother side that balances that and supports that. And, I want to share that with more people and balance that. I remember, I'll bring up my dad's name. He was someone that was all medicine. We grew up just taking medicine almost, just preventative care. Right. And so he's had a lot of health challenges over the years, but he was not someone that would think of using this kind of device for anything until he saw what it was doing for my son,
right,
and what we were using it for. And suddenly he has flipped. This person that was always, I'm just going to take a pill for something. He still takes pills. They're still important in his life for different things, but he uses a laser every day. Every day. He wears that thing out more than we do. And it's incredible to see his evolution of growing and utilizing these things together. And I know if my dad can change his mind and see the power of this, oh man, like we just need to show it to people. I use the term accessible. We need to make this accessible to people.
Right.
They need to not be afraid. They need to know it's safe. They need to know how to use it. And we need to provide it in a way that they can get their hands on it.
For sure. There's several studies now that show photobiomodulation can enhance things like chemotherapy use, right? There's several studies on that actually. So this is a modality that should be used. I've said this so many times, should be used no matter what form of medicine you're practicing. I don't care if you're a rehab specialist, you're gastroenterologist, I don't care, right? Whatever you're doing, if you add photobiomodulation correctly, that you're only going to enhance results. That's something that's consistently seen across the board.
Yep.
And so I just, it boggles my mind that every practice, every rehab clinic, why are we not seeing this? And that's a big goal, right? We want to see this in every practice. We, even in acute care, right? So in your story about your son in ICU, very important to understand, even in acute care, we can be using laser therapy. And I'm not saying only, but in conjunction with other life-saving things that need to be going on because you're increasing the resiliency of cells.
Yep.
Makes
100%.
sense. And I actually have a meeting with the Ambulance Association. This is in the Middle East, but they're interested in how they can incorporate lasers and in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. This is what we're accomplishing. This is what we're trying to do. So, well, that's amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share with the world? Anything that, you want to put out there? You got a captive audience here. You have Josh and Vanessa in the room. So
this is a journey that my wife and I talk about it a lot of. We don't feel like we created this journey. We really, we're faithful family. This has really felt like through my family's experiences, meeting you, building this relationship, and the timing in which everything in our life has happened over the last few years. It just feels very divine intervention type of thing. We really feel like we're on this journey that God has set us on, and we're just kind of walking it, right? Yeah. And I'm not someone that ever thought I'd be co-founding a company with. This is not something I thought about 10 years ago. Like, holy cow, this is what I'm doing now. I was much more in the corporate space, talking to CERN, right? This has been an amazing transition for me and my family, and so fun, so inspiring, so purposeful. And, everyone that I talk to, all the engineers that are working with us, incredibly smart people, they're all driven by purpose too. Right. I talk to them and they're just so excited when they measure the laser in this way, or we created some new software application and it shows this cool new thing. Like they're all building these things alongside with us, and they get so excited because they know how it's going to impact people. They know what purpose it's going to do. And so you can just see it in their eyes. It's just contagious. It's amazing. So you are a very inspiring person, and everything that I've seen from your practices has inspired us. So we're just excited to be on this journey with you.
Man, well, thank you so much. And, thanks for coming on and sharing your expertise and your knowledge. And I'll say it again, there's no perfect person, right? There's no one better that, could be doing this. So, your background is just, it's perfect. So, if everyone out there, they're wondering, how can I get more information? We do have a website. So that's 528innovations.com. We're starting to get our social media page up. That's at 528 Innovations for Instagram. You can get all this. I'll post about it too. You can find it through my Instagram, but that's going to be where you can stay up with the latest and greatest of everything that we have coming out. I'm just excited to see how this technology is seriously going to influence the world. We are changing lives. That's the goal. We are changing lives. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.
May 28th.
Oh yeah, May 28th.
5/28.
There you go. That's the launch.
Talk about the journey.
That's the launch. May 28th.
It'll be exciting.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's kind of important. That's coming up. So we're launching May 28th, 5/28 on 5/28.
Yep.
Awesome.
You'll find out all the details, all the fun things. It'll all be available.
Yes.
28.
Fantastic.
Yep. Can't wait to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We hope today's episode has inspired you to take that next step toward your best self. Remember, the path to longevity is paved with small, daily decisions. Your journey is unique, and every step, every choice, brings you closer to your ultimate vision of a healthier, happier life. For more insights, tips, and resources, visit drbrandоncrawford.com.